Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
No.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
How in the hell are we going to figure this out? Will the real Juggernaut please stand up? I can only think of one way to figure out which one is the real Juggernaut, bitch. And you know what that means, baby. It is time for an Xtrumble, which is an extreme rumble. We're going to face off these two awesome statues and see which one is the winner. Stay tuned. I'm Mr. X. This is the Xtreme channel where we have Xtreme collectibles as a big part of the channel. In front of me is no exception. We have two Xtreme collectibles. They are both 1/4 scale Juggernaut statues, and you could not find more different Juggernaut statues on the planet. You've tuned in for an Xtrumble, which is an extreme rumble. That means we're going to face these characters off, see which one is better. An Xtrumble is a newer part of the channel that we haven't done. I think this is the 4th or 5th one, and I still don't know a format because every time I get stuff going on, it's just, I can't follow a format, and this is going to be no different. But one thing I've decided up front is we're not going to compare these normally. We're not going to say, okay, look at the sculpt on this one, look at the sculpt on this one. I chose these two for specific reasons, and one of those specific reasons, specific, not Pacific, is the sculpt and paint on both are amazing. So here's my favorite part, and this may be what Xtrumbles are moving forward, because as some of you know, it's going to be the biggest part of the channel. You guys decide. You guys look at all the facts. I'm just going to compare them, give you information, and you guys will decide which one would be the Juggernaut for you. Now, before we get started, this isn't all the Juggernauts in the Xtreme collection. There is a third 4th scale Juggernaut right over there. And I want to talk about that one before we start this Xtrumble, simply for the fact that I'm excluding him from the Xtrumble, and I don't really have any good reasons why, so maybe we can diagnose those together. That's kind of what this is anyway. It's free therapy. I don't charge $100 an hour. I only charge 25 cents, which is about how much I make. Which has to be against minimum wage laws in this country, don't you think? Anyway, the one I'm talking about is right here. This is the Halamaw Custom Company 1/4 scale Juggernaut. This was the first Juggernaut statue I ever got, and I still love it to date. I think one of the reasons I don't have it in the Xtrumble today is because the paint and sculpt just are completely missing details. But I love this piece. It's a comic version. It's huge. It's the iconic Juggernaut pose, and there's some really cool features. His face inside of his mask, just some awesome aspects to him. And he also has a base that's removable. You can display him with or without, which isn't always the case with characters. I have a feeling we're going to come back to him because I'm going to refer to him a few times, but he is not included in this Xtrumble, but maybe he is for you, so maybe he's the one for you. I don't know if Johan's watching. I know Johan's been looking for one. I might sell you that one because I have two, and I actually have another one coming. Check out my next Juggernaut that I have coming. That's what she said. But this is a custom piece. It comes with a companion toad. I opted for that as well. And let me tell you how I actually acquired these pieces before we jump into it, and what these pieces are maybe. So this is a custom modern Juggernaut. And I got this from one of the commissioning groups, probably the one I'm a biggest fan of. Some people call me a dick rider. May he rest in peace. But he came only as a kit, which we're going to get into, but I purchased him kind of as an impulse buy for reasons we're going to talk about when we get to the comparisons. And obviously, he is not the comic Juggernaut, which we'll talk about as well. On the left, you have Sideshow Collectibles Juggernaut Maquette. I had no intention of buying this piece, even though initial reviews were that it was amazing. To me, this was an exclusive or bust because I didn't need a Juggernaut, and I love the Kitty Pryde aspect of it, but I didn't plan on getting it, and someone messaged me, I'm trying to think, about a month or two ago, before this airs, and they said, hey, I'm willing to give mine up 200 below retail shipped to you. Do you want it? Now, I'm a generous guy, but I'm not a stupid guy. Yes, please. Cha-ching. So I went ahead and purchased him. That's why I have both of them. I have a giant X-Men wall. I only need 1 or 2 Juggernauts, especially since he's a secondary character. But let's dive into these pieces, kind of look at the differences. And as we do, I think we're going to talk a lot about the Halamaw as well, and where he might have fallen a little bit into this. But also, if we put him on the table, you wouldn't be able to see me. And I know that's why you're here. Love you too. Not you, sicko. Put your pants back on. So let's start off comparing both. As I said, the one on the right is a custom. Custom means that it is a private commission. Somebody decided, hey, I want to do this. They hired a sculptor, an art director. Maybe they were the art director. They hired a factory to make a limited run of the piece. This one is licensed, made by Sideshow Collectibles, probably the biggest and largest statue manufacturing and distributing company out there, and it is signed off on by Marvel. Obviously, this isn't signed off on by Marvel because it's not even it's a completely different take on the character. There are some elements that are very similar to X-Men 3. What was that called? X United, where Snakes from Gone in 60 Seconds played Juggernaut. Remember that? So there are some elements from that, but I don't think it's taken from that. It's just a modern Juggernaut, which we're going to get to. Another big difference between the two is this one came painted only, and this one came as a kit only. What does a kit mean? This is the kit right here. Here's a picture. A kit means it comes unpainted and you have to find a painter to do it for you. And there's both pros and cons to that. Number one is generally a custom paint job is much more detailed. You have the artistic direction to go however you want, and this is exactly the case with that. Where factory paint, you may find more QC issues, and it's not a painter who gets painted $500 to $1,000 to paint a statue. It's someone who's probably paid by the hour. So that is the difference. Now, you cannot get this as a kit, and interestingly enough, I was hanging out with XM Studios, and I asked Brian, why can't you sell your pieces as kits? And he said the licensor, like Marvel or DC, will not allow it because they sign off on the paint. Makes sense to me. So another big difference. Kit, factory paint. Next difference between the two is how many were made. This is rare for a Sideshow popular piece. This is extremely rare. It's 100 times more rare almost. Sideshow made 1,200 of these pieces. 800 were the collector's edition that did not include Kitty Pryde and her base, which I don't use. And 400 were the exclusive that included Kitty Pryde and her base. This guy right here, there were 15 made. Not 1,500. 15 of these exist in the world. That gives this an edge in my opinion. And there's something inside of me, that's what she said, that makes just a lot more special when I own something that there's less than 20 of or less than 15 of, or sometimes I have a one of a kind, which is it just, very, very cool. So another difference between the two. Obviously, let's talk about price. There is a cost difference. Sideshow's Juggernaut ranges from $1,300 to $1,500 depending on shipping and discounts and stuff like that. This guy is about in the same price range when you're all in. The original kit costs just under $1,000. Then you got to factor in how much you're going to pay a painter, which varies, and shipping and things like that. So price, they're about the same. Interesting. Another big difference between the two. Let's talk about the pose. So there are two different types of poses when it comes to statues, and sometimes some statues fall in between, but one is a museum pose. Museum pose means they're kind of posing for a picture. Which one do you think that is? That's right. That was weird you said it out loud. Did people look at you? But the custom 1/4 scale is a museum pose. He's posing for a picture. The other type of pose on a statue is dynamic. So they're in the middle of an action of some type. This is as dynamic as they get, and as they get with the Juggernaut. Pretty freaking cool. So again, polar opposites. One thing I love, at the end of this video, there's going to be a link to some other Xtrumbles. One was a custom Psylocke vs. Sentinel. They were almost identical, but completely different statues. These are the same character, but they are completely different on every level. And you know something else that makes them completely different? Obviously, this is the comic version of Juggernaut. This is a modern human-like interpretation, what he would look like in the real world. Another huge difference between the two. And we're going to talk about some of the elements probably at the end of the video on why would you choose this one over that. And to be honest with you, a lot of it depends on what your collection or your display or how you're trying to do your man cave or your woman cave or your home looks like. So they fall into different facets regarding that, which we're going to get to. And interestingly enough, one of the things that I was kind of pondering about when I was thinking about whether we should do the Halamaw instead is the Halamaw is kind of a combination of both. Here, let's throw just a picture up in the middle here. So he is a museum pose, but he's the comic character. Make sense? He's also a custom, but he came painted. So some people may say he was the best of both worlds. And this is also another great segue into what we're going to look at next. We're going to start comparing different parts of this, and I'm just going to shoot by the hip. I don't know what that means, but I don't know who shoots by the hip. Someone tell me what that means. Actually, let's look it up right now. Shoot by the hip. Interesting. I did not know that. I still don't know because through the magic of editing, I'm going to put it up later. But let's start looking at the bases here. The custom piece is a really unique base, and the reason it's a radioactive symbol is because this is what the painter decided to do. He actually did it without even consulting me, and I honestly think it's a decal that just fit perfectly, but I really like it. Juggernaut's not really known for anything radioactive, but it just kind of personifies the power and strength of his character, that he is unstoppable, nothing can slow him down. Where the Sideshow base is following the theme of what a lot of X-Men follow and some of the X-Men in the Sideshow line. It is in the X-Mansion in the Danger Room. And they have a few other pieces like their Rogue and Gambit that are also in the Danger Room, so that's essentially where this battle is ensuing. And it is completely torn up. It really goes along with the dynamic aspect of the statue. So here's a picture of both of them together. Completely different stories. Both fit Juggernaut very well. Let's look at his boots together. Two different boots. One is more of a clownish, cartoonish, comic style boot. Makes me think of gypsies, but it is true Juggernaut all the same. And the other one is a modern work boot, kind of industrial. And as you see, we're not diving into the paint and sculpt because if you're looking closely, both of these are done very, very well. I definitely give the edge on the paint to the custom one, but then again, it was custom painted, so that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Take a look at his uniform here. On the custom one, he's not wearing a shirt, so you can really only look at his pants, but this really cool texturized pants that flows with his costume, and there's no differentiation with the Sideshow Juggernaut as well. Different layers. I like how they did it. They stayed accurate to the comic. Let's look at his skin. This is where I think it's a clear winner in the custom one. I don't like this graininess that they put into the Sideshow skin. I think the musculature and how it's overdone is perfect, especially for a comic book character, but I don't like the texturized aspect of his skin, where if you look at the custom skin, you see the bulging muscles, the different awesome paint tones, you see the blue veins. Here's a picture of kind of his armor. Again, traditional comic book style, metallic plate. This is really the only metal on the Sideshow piece, where on the custom piece he has the metal all over, and it's these worn, like he's been out in the rain or he's worn this armor for a long time, which we know he has. He only has one set of the armor, so it's very realistic, which I like. I want to do a shot of their faces here. I actually prefer the Sideshow Juggernaut portrait more, but I like the custom helmet more. He looks fierce. I like the expression on his face with Sideshow. Not a huge fan of the expression on his face with the custom one. Now, one last thing I want to focus on here looking at both is look at their fists side by side. Incredibly different size. And of course, because the custom one is more anatomically correct to a human being. But what's interestingly enough is when you talk about scale, they're actually almost the same height. Obviously, this guy's bending over. The base is about the same. So I wanted to see what they both look like next to another character. So here is Sideshow's Mystique. So I think it scales really well. Juggernaut is a very large guy, over 9 feet tall, sometimes taller than that. And I think the scale is perfect. Obviously, the Sideshow is much bulkier. And if you're curious how that Juggernaut scales, I got a picture of that as well. Here in the display case, he's actually displayed with Sideshow Mystique. And a piece in the middle that I did a very unfavorable review that may be a giveaway someday on the 5K giveaway. Hint, hint. Now, some other things I want to talk about is the different display options they have. First, Sideshow Juggernaut is very limited. All these pieces that key in, it was a common complaint among collectors. They wish they would have been optional, but if you take them out, there's a huge keyhole. So really, your only display option is if you have one of the 400 exclusive pieces, you can display Kitty Pryde wherever you want. I actually have her in a separate case with XM ladies. But if you have the collector's edition, one of the 800, how you get him is how you have to display him. Where this guy, you don't have a lot of options, but there's a few different ones. First, his helmet is removable. And I am not a fan of the portrait, so that is something I will never do. But it is nice. You could put it on the bottom, wherever you wanted. And then also, this part of his armor is also removable. Kind of some options there for you. And again, you could put it at the bottom. Now, interestingly enough, obviously the Sideshow Juggernaut takes up a lot more space. Let me get the measurements. And Sideshow Juggernaut is incredibly hard to measure because he is in such a dynamic pose. But the custom one is approximately 25 inches tall. And then it is a circle, and so it's about a 15.5-inch diameter in all directions. Where he is probably about 25 inches deep. Height is 29 inches, and I can't even figure out width. So to me, if you are gauging them in your collection, this has a distinct advantage because space is the biggest enemy of collectors, even more than finances sometimes. So for that reason, I like this one. So what you're going to ask yourself is, both have very good paint and sculpt, in my opinion. The artistic direction is kind of difficult to judge because they wanted this one to be a comic, dynamic piece, where they wanted this one to be a modern museum piece, a museum pose, completely different. So what I would ask myself, which one would you rather have? That's what I want in the comments. And if I were you, and what I probably will do someday, is what pieces is he going to be sitting next to? Is he going to be next to X-Men facing off? Which, to be honest with you, both of these would work. If you had the Rogue Maquette right here, she could be swinging at him, or she could be swinging at him and he could just be like, bring it on, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. So certainly some opportunities, no matter which direction you go. Some people like museum poses. Some people like action poses. Some people have limited display space. This may be the way to go for that. Some people like having something very, very unique, which no one else has. It's really an interesting flavor. And one thing that just came to mind right now, if someone comes here and they see, oh, that's Wolverine, I know who Wolverine is. That's Juggernaut, I know who Juggernaut is. Who the fuck is that? They may not know if they're not really in-depth into comic books. They may not understand. So is that important to you or not? I don't give a shit what you guys think of my statues, but that is something you may want to consider. So let me know who wins the Xtrumble. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, for space purposes, I would probably get rid of him first, especially since he's so unique. Not probably, I would. But both awesome pieces. The Halamaw is also another cool piece as well. The one thing I didn't say about that is it does have mixed media pants. And actually on mine, they're kind of worn in the back, which sucks. But I wonder what he's been doing. Yeah, who knows. But check out my other Xtrumbles, guys. And until tomorrow, take care. don't go fuck yourself.